Rain hits the windows of a quiet 24-hour diner in Seattle. The night feels heavy. Ava Carter, a black waitress finishing her shift, looks toward the last booth. A Korean man sits there, hunched over, holding two crying newborns tight against his chest. His shirt is wet like he ran through the storm. His skin looks gray. His hands shake so much he can barely keep the babies safe in his arms. Ava walks closer. She slows down when she sees the look in his eyes. He is scared, like he is running from something. He tries to lift a bottle to feed one baby, but the bottle drops. He can barely breathe. Ava asks if he needs help. His voice is low and weak as he whispers, "Please, help my children." Ava does not know he is the boss of the Korean Mafia. She does not know someone is outside looking for him. Someone who wants him gone tonight. What danger is coming into this diner? Stay with us to find out, and subscribe for more stories. Another big story comes tomorrow. Your support helps us bring powerful stories to life. Much love to our amazing viewers in the United States of America, Australia, Mexico, France, United Kingdom, Canada, Brazil, Japan, Jamaica, and many others. Ava Carter was used to long nights. She worked 6 days a week at the Harbor Light Diner, a small place near the Seattle waterfront. Most nights, she wore the same light blue apron that had her name stitched on the front. It was a little worn out, but she did not mind. She needed the job, and she gave it everything she had. Her life had not been easy. She was a single mother to a teenage boy named Malik. She raised him alone since he was a baby. His father disappeared long ago, leaving her to figure things out on her own. Bills came faster than paychecks, and rent in Seattle was never cheap. But no matter how tired she was, Ava always pushed forward. She had a warm smile that made strangers feel safe to talk to her. Regular customers often told her she made the diner feel like home. Even tired truck drivers who came through in the middle of the night said they could rest easy when she was working. Ava liked hearing that, because deep down, she wanted to make life better for everyone she met. Ava believed that kindness was a choice. Even when the world gave her reasons to be cold, she chose to help. Growing up, her grandmother taught her that love was something you give, not something you wait to receive. Ava held on to those words every day. The night she saw the man with the babies, she did not think twice. There was something in how he held them. His hands shook, but he held them close like they were his whole world. The babies were wrapped in blankets, crying from hunger or fear. Ava stepped toward them because she could not turn away from a child in need. She remembered times when she had almost broken down, but someone stepped up to help her. Now it was her turn. Her shift had been slow before that moment. The rain kept most people off the streets. She had only served 2 truck drivers and an elderly woman who liked hot tea before bed. Ava had been thinking about Malik's school supplies and how she needed to stretch her next paycheck again. Money thoughts were always in her head, but she never let customers see her stress. When she saw the man struggle to hold the babies and the bottle dropping from his weak grip, everything inside her pushed her forward. She picked up the bottle, cleaned it quickly, and tried to help one of the twins drink. The baby calmed down a little. Ava felt the tiny heartbeat against her hand. It reminded her of when Malik was a baby. She remembered those nights when she stayed awake, rocking him to sleep, praying he would have a good future. The man looked at Ava with tired eyes. His face was pale like he had not eaten in days. Sweat covered his forehead, even though the diner was cool. He looked ready to faint. Ava realized he was not only sick, he was scared. But scared of what? She asked him simple questions. "Are you hurt? Do you need a doctor?" His only answer was a broken whisper. "Please help my children. They are innocent." Ava noticed he kept looking at the front door. Every time a car passed outside, he flinched. He was watching the street like he expected someone to burst inside at any moment. Ava had seen fear before, but not like this. Whoever was after him must have been close. Ava sat across from him and held the second baby while he leaned back, breathing hard. She noticed he had a wedding ring, yet he sat alone. Where was their mother? Why was a man with 2 newborns running through a storm at night? Ava had many questions, but did not know if she should ask yet. For now, the babies needed more help than answers. She saw that the twins were beautiful. The boy had tiny hands that kept grabbing her finger. The girl had soft black hair and peaceful eyes once her crying stopped. They were only a few weeks old. Ava wondered what kind of danger newborns could possibly be in. Ava had spent years working late shifts, meeting all kinds of people. Some were drunk, Some were sad. Some were angry at the world. But none had ever looked like this man. He looked like he was carrying a very heavy secret. She did not know who he was. She did not know what darkness was chasing him across the city. But she knew one thing. No child should be left alone in fear. Her heart led her that night. Even though she did not know the full story, she could feel that these babies needed her. And she would not walk away. The man tried to say more, but his body gave up too quickly. His head dropped forward for a second. Ava rushed to support him before he slipped from the booth. She grabbed a clean towel and tried to dry his wet shirt. He looked like someone who had been running without a break, like every step could have been his last. "All right, just breathe," Ava said softly. "You are safe here." She believed that, even though she had no proof. As she held the twins close to her chest, something changed inside her. She felt responsible for them already. They were too small to protect themselves. They trusted anyone who held them, and right now, that someone was her. Ava did not know the man was important. She did not know his name. She did not know that powerful people were already searching the streets, ready to take everything from him. She only knew that he needed help. Her life had always been about helping others, even when she barely had help for herself. This moment was no different. But this time, her choice would change everything. The man holding the twins was named Gene Park. Before this night, many people feared him, respected him, or wanted to be close to him for power. But no one ever saw him like this, weak, sick, and ready to risk everything for his children. Gene was not always a strong man. He grew up in a small part of South Korea, where trouble was easy to find. His father worked hard, but earned very little. His mother had health problems that kept her in bed most days. When Gene was a teenager, he got tired of hunger and endless struggle. He started hanging out with older boys who made quick money doing things that weren't legal. Soon, he became part of a local group that handled debts and protected businesses for a price. He did not enjoy hurting people. But when you grow up with nothing, power can feel like the only way to survive. Years passed. Gene became skilled, respected, and feared. When a bigger crime group noticed him, they brought him to the United States. Seattle became his new home. Here, the group handled illegal gambling and secret money deals. Gene was smart and quiet, which made people trust him. He listened more than he talked. He made plans that always worked. Soon, he climbed higher and higher in the organization. Over time, he became the one in control. He was the boss who gave orders and kept peace among dangerous people. Some saw him as cold, but Gene knew he had to be strong or he would lose everything. He lived in the shadows, always watching for enemies. But his life changed the day he met the woman who became his wife. She worked at a bookstore, far from his world of crime. She was soft-spoken, but she had a strong heart. She treated everyone with kindness. For the first time in his life, Gene wanted to be a better man. He hid his illegal work from her because he feared she would leave him. He told her he ran shipping deals at the harbor. Their love gave him something he never thought he could have: peace. When she became pregnant, Gene promised himself he would leave the Mafia life. He wanted his children to grow up safe, knowing joy instead of fear. The day the twins were born was the happiest moment of his life. Gene held them in his arms and cried because he felt hope. The boy was named June, and the girl was named Hannah. They were tiny and perfect. He promised the mother of his children that he would make a fresh start. But that promise broke too soon. There were people inside the organization who wanted power. One man in particular, someone Gene had trusted for years, believed Gene was becoming weak. He saw Gene's love for his family as a threat. He feared Gene would quit and leave the business without a leader. He also feared Gene would expose secrets. Greed and fear made that man dangerous. Gene did not notice the warnings at first. But after his wife passed away suddenly due to medical problems just weeks after the twins were born, he changed. She was gone, and his heart broke. He kept his children close and tried to stay strong, but he was drowning in sadness. He told his group that once the babies were a little older, he would retire. That was all the reason the other man needed. He wanted to take Jin's place and become leader. So he came up with a plan that would leave Gene out of the way forever. A small drop of poison inside Jin's tea. Something that would slowly drain his strength and leave him vulnerable. Gene did not realize the danger until his friend smiled at him with the wrong kind of smile. A smile that said the truth. Gene was not safe anymore. Gene left the building without warning. He grabbed the twins from the babysitter and ran through the rainy streets. With every step, his head hurt more. His chest tightened. His vision blurred. He knew the poison was spreading fast. He knew he did not have long. But he would not let anyone take his children. The twins represented everything his enemies feared, Jin's legacy. If they could control the twins, they could control the future of the organization. They could raise them into power. They could use them as leverage. Jin would rather die than let that happen. That is how he ended up in the diner, soaking wet, holding on to the last bit of strength he had. He did not trust many people, but when Ava walked over with worry in her eyes, he saw kindness. Real kindness. Something he used to believe was gone from the world. Jin kept looking out the window, waiting for the people chasing him. He knew they were close. They would follow his trail. They would not stop until the twins were in their hands. Even now, he felt pain spreading through his chest. He struggled to breathe. Sweat rolled down his face. He wished his wife was still alive. She would have known what to do. She would have kept their children safe without fear. But now, Jin only had one choice: put his trust in a stranger. He looked at Ava again. She was holding his daughter gently, bouncing her a little to calm her. His son was resting against her shoulder, quiet and breathing softly. That sight gave Jin comfort he had never felt before. It reminded him of how his life could have been if trouble had not followed him for so long. Ava looked confused but steady. She did not run away even when she saw how sick he was. Most people would have backed off. Most people would have judged him. She did not. That meant everything to Jin. He knew time was running out. He had to speak the truth soon, before the poison took more of his strength. Ava needed to understand what kind of danger she stood in. The twins needed her, and Jin needed someone who would love them without fear. He hoped Ava would be that person, because the men searching for him were getting closer every minute. And once they arrived, there would be no second chances. Ava stood beside the man as he struggled to breathe. The twins were calm now, resting in her arms. She wanted to call an ambulance, but something about his eyes stopped her. He looked terrified every time a car passed by outside. It was like he expected danger to burst through the door any moment. She leaned closer and whispered, "Who is after you?" Jin swallowed hard. His voice was slow and weak. "People who want power, they want my children." Those words chilled Ava. She stared at the babies. Their tiny faces were so peaceful. It was hard to believe anyone could want to hurt them. Before she could ask more, the door of the diner opened. A group of 3 men stepped inside. They wore dark jackets that were wet from the rain. One of them scanned the place quickly. His eyes paused on Jin. Jin stiffened, and Ava felt his hand grip her arm. Without thinking, she stood up fast, pulling the babies close. She acted like she was just walking toward the kitchen, but inside her heart was racing. The men moved deeper into the diner, whispering among themselves as they looked around. Ava pushed open the kitchen door and hurried to the back. She whispered to another worker standing there. "Break time?" He shrugged and walked out, confused but not asking questions. That gave her the chance she needed. She brought Jin through the kitchen and toward the storage room in the back of the diner. Boxes of supplies and canned food were stacked along the walls. It was dark and cramped, but safe for the moment. Jin leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. Ava laid the twins down gently inside an empty cardboard box lined with clean towels. Ava turned to Jin. "Stay here. Do not make any sound." He nodded slowly, grateful but still scared. She stepped out and closed the door carefully. Her hands trembled. She never thought one night at work would turn into this. She walked back toward the seating area, trying to look calm. The men were still there. One of them spoke in a low voice, but she could hear enough to understand. They were asking the cashier if anyone with a baby had come in. The cashier said no. Ava's heart pounded. She kept her face straight and walked past them with an empty tray. One of the men stared at her longer than she liked. His eyes followed her movements like he was searching for the truth in her expression. Finally, he looked away and continued talking with the others. Ava returned to the kitchen quickly. She needed a plan. She needed to think fast. The babies were in danger. Jin was barely able to stand. And now dangerous men were only a few steps away. Just as she tried to calm herself, the door chimed again. 2 police officers walked in. Ava froze. The officers had not come for Jin. They were doing their normal late-night check on places still open. They talked to the cashier and looked around. Ava thought police would make her feel safer, but instead she felt more nervous. If they found Jean, they might call an ambulance. That could reveal his identity. If the men still inside were watching, things could go even worse. Ava felt trapped between danger and danger. One of the officers headed toward the kitchen, maybe wanting a cup of coffee or checking for health violations. Ava stepped in his way with a smile she did not feel. "Hey, officer. Quiet night?" she asked, trying to sound normal. He nodded. "Just raining too much for trouble. You working the late shift again?" "Yeah, always," she laughed weakly. He looked toward the back hallway. "Anyone else working tonight? I saw one guy leave earlier." Ava shook her head quickly. "Just me for now. The others left early because it is slow." The officer did not look fully convinced, but he shrugged and returned to the front. Ava took a deep breath. The pressure on her chest was tight. She looked back toward the storage room door. Jean and those two newborns were counting on her. Soon, the group of men finished talking with the cashier. They walked out slowly, still scanning every corner. One of them paused at the front door before leaving. He looked back inside with cold, angry eyes. Ava felt her stomach twist. They were not gone for good. They would search every diner, every street, every building. She waited until the police left too. Only when they were gone did she push open the storage room door again. Jean looked worse than before. His breathing was shallow. Sweat ran down his face. "The men were here," Ava whispered. "We need to do something fast." Jean tried to sit up. His voice was barely there. "I would never ask a stranger for help. But my children, they deserve life. They deserve freedom." Ava looked at the babies. They were sleeping so peacefully. She thought about her own son Malik. She would do anything to keep him safe too. "I do not know what I have stepped into," Ava said softly. "But I will not let anyone hurt these babies." Jean looked at her with deep relief. For the first time, he believed he had a chance. "Thank you," he whispered. "You are stronger than you know." Ava took a moment to steady herself. She planned their next steps carefully. "We cannot stay in the diner," she said. "Those men will come back. We need to leave before they do." Jean nodded, although his body protested every movement. Ava helped him stand. She grabbed a few towels and wrapped the babies so they would stay warm and quiet. She knew what she was doing was dangerous, but kindness is strongest when it costs something. As they got ready to move, Ava looked toward the front again. Rain still poured hard outside. The streets were dark and empty, but danger was out there waiting. She took a deep breath. Her life had changed forever. There was no going back. She walked beside Jean, holding the twins close to her chest. She had stepped into a world she never wanted to enter, and now she had to survive it. Ava helped Jean out the back door of the diner. The rain poured down harder, soaking their clothes. She supported him with one arm while holding the babies close with the other. Jean was shaking. He looked like he was fighting to stay awake. They moved slowly toward her car. Every step looked painful for him. Ava kept checking the dark street, scared those men would return. When they finally reached her old car, she opened the back door and helped him sit down. She placed the twins gently beside him, wrapped in towels. Jean leaned his head back. He looked exhausted, like life was slipping away bit by bit. Ava climbed into the driver's seat. Her hands were still shaking. She turned to him. "Where can I take you?" she asked. Jean closed his eyes for a moment before answering. "There is no place safe for me. Not anymore." Ava frowned. "What about family? Friends? Someone who can help you?" He laughed weakly. It was the saddest sound she ever heard. "Everyone I knew either fears me or wants to replace me. Trust is a rare thing in my world." Ava looked at him through the mirror. She could see how tired he was. His lips were losing color. Whatever poison was inside him was spreading fast. "Why did you stay in danger if you wanted a normal life?" she asked softly. Jean opened his eyes and stared at the babies lying beside him. His voice cracked as he spoke. "I believed I could control everything. I thought my strength was enough to keep my children safe. I was wrong." Ava felt a pinch in her chest. His regret was heavy, and she could see it clearly. Jean took a slow breath. "Ava, I need you to listen carefully." Her heart skipped. She turned around to face him fully. "If I do not make it," he whispered, "take my children far away. Raise them where my world can never touch them." Ava blinked, stunned. "You are asking me to take your children?" Jean nodded. "They are innocent. They deserve peace. Not fear. Not violence. A real future. That is something I never had." Ava stared at the twins. Their tiny hands peeked from the towels. They looked so small and helpless. She remembered the day she became a mother. The joy, the fear, the promise she made to protect her son no matter what. She looked back at Jean. "You think you are going to die?" He did not answer at first. His eyes spoke for him. "I can feel my body shutting down," Jean finally said. "I do not want to, but I have no choice. I was betrayed by someone I trusted. I did not expect poison. It was the only way they could beat me." Ava felt a tear slip down her cheek. She wiped it quickly. "We will get you help. You are not done yet." Jean smiled faintly. "You have courage. That is why I believe in you." Ava breathed in slowly. Her mind was racing. Taking his children would change her whole life. She already struggled to provide for Malik. She worked long hours. Money was always a worry. And now she was being asked to protect 2 babies from dangerous people. But she looked at Jin's face again. This was a father who knew he was out of time. A father who loved his children more than his own pride. "I do not know much about your world," Ava said. "But I know babies do not choose where they come from. They should not pay for the mistakes of adults." Jin's eyes filled with tears. "You are a good woman." Ava reached for his hand. "Let me help you fight. We still have time." He squeezed her hand lightly, though his strength was fading. "You remind me of someone," he whispered. "The twins' mother. She believed I could change. She begged me to leave my old life. We were ready to start over." Ava listened quietly as he paused to catch his breath. "A week before the twins were born, she was gone," he said, voice breaking. "A car crash. They said it was an accident. But I never believed that." Ava felt her throat tighten. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Jean looked at the babies again. "They are all I have left from her. I want them to grow up happy, to go to school, to laugh, to be free." His tears rolled down his cheeks. Ava handed him a napkin from her dashboard. "Do you think I can protect them?" she asked softly. "Yes," he whispered without hesitation. "I see strength in you. You are not afraid to care. That is the strongest kind of power." Ava gave a shaky smile. "If something happens to you, I promise I will keep them safe." Jean closed his eyes. Relief washed over his face. It was like he finally allowed himself to let go of some of the fear he carried. "Thank you," he breathed. Suddenly, the twins began to cry. Ava reached into the back, calming them with a gentle touch. Her heart warmed as she looked at them. They already trusted her. A loud car engine passed by on the street, making her jump. She looked around quickly. She did not see anything suspicious, but she knew danger could return without warning. Jean reached for his bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. His hands were shaking so much that Ava had to help him unfold it. "This has their real names, their birth records, and everything you will need," he said slowly. "Keep it hidden." She nodded and placed the paper carefully inside her jacket. Jean looked weaker. His words slowed. "If I can survive tonight, I will return for them. But if I do not, you must tell them I love them more than anything." Ava placed her hand over his heart. "They will know. I will make sure of it." Jean smiled one last time. "I believe you." Ava started the engine. They needed to get somewhere safe before those men returned. She glanced back again. Jean was fading in and out, but he was still holding on. "Stay awake," Ava begged. "Do not give up yet." He opened his eyes halfway. "I trust you, Ava." As she pulled the car out of the parking lot, she looked at the twins once more. Everything had changed. She was now responsible for a promise that could cost her everything. But she did not turn back. She would not let fear win. She would protect innocence with every breath she had. Ava whispered to the babies, "You are safe with me. I will keep you safe." Outside, the rain kept falling. But inside that car, a new hope was beginning. A hope worth fighting for. Ava tried to stay calm as she returned to the diner. Her hands were shaking, but she kept her focus on the twins in the car seat beside her. Jean sat weakly in the passenger seat, his head resting against the window. He was breathing hard, as if every breath was a fight. She drove slowly because the rain had turned the road slippery, and she did not want to risk anything with the babies in the car. They reached the back door of the diner. It was dark and closed for the night, but Ava had keys. She unlocked the door and helped carry the twins inside. Jean could hardly stand, so she guided him to a chair near the storage room. The twins slept quietly, unaware of the danger coming. Ava turned off the lights. Only the glow from the street outside lit a small part of the room. She thought they would be safe here just for a little while. She wanted Jean to rest and gather a little strength before they found somewhere better to hide. Jean tried to speak, but his voice shook. They will not stop, he whispered. Please stay close to them. Ava nodded. I will not let anyone touch these babies, she said. You are safe now. She hoped her words were true. Moments passed in silence. The rain outside became louder. Every sound made Ava nervous. She walked to the front door and checked the lock again. Her heart jumped when she saw headlights not far away. A black SUV parked at the side of the street. Ava's breath froze in her chest. They had found them. She rushed back to Jean. They're here, she whispered. Jean tried to push himself up from the chair, but his legs almost failed. He grabbed the edge of a table just to stand. He looked toward the twins, fear growing in his eyes. Ava quickly picked up both babies, holding them against her chest. She helped Jean move toward the storage room, where there was a back exit. But before they could reach it, a loud crash filled the diner. Glass shattered. The front door flew open. Dark figures stepped inside, wearing black jackets, their faces cold. Ava gasped, holding the babies tight. The men searched the room with sharp eyes. The leader of the group stepped forward. He looked around slowly, like a hunter checking the air. He knew Jean was inside. He could feel it. Jean leaned against the wall, trying his best to keep his body from falling. He stepped away from Ava and the twins, trying to draw attention toward himself. He looked weak, but his eyes still carried fire. Leave them, he said with a tired voice. This is only between us. The men turned toward him. The leader smiled, knowing he had finally cornered his target. Ava stepped forward, even though her knees were shaking. You stay away from these babies, she said. I will not let you hurt them. The men looked at her, surprised. They did not expect resistance from a waitress. But Ava remembered the promise she made. She would protect innocence no matter the cost. The leader laughed quietly. You are brave, he said. But you are not part of this story. Move away. Ava refused. This story brought me here. So I will stay in it, she said firmly. The man's face hardened. He motioned to two of his men. They stepped toward Jean. He tried to punch one of them, but he barely had strength. His fist bounced off the man's chest. The other attacker pushed Jean to the floor. Jean coughed and held his stomach, pain rising fast. Ava cried out, Stop it. One of the babies began to cry from the stress in the room. Ava bounced them gently, but the fear in her hands made her tremble. She looked for anything she could use to protect them. Her eyes landed on a heavy metal coffee pot on the counter. She made a choice. Ava rushed forward with the pot in her hand. She hit the first attacker on the back of the head. The metal slammed hard, and he fell to his knees. She swung again at the second man. It gave Jean a moment to crawl toward the babies. Jean yelled, Run! But the leader grabbed Ava by her arm. You should not have done that, he said. Ava tried to pull away, but his grip was too strong. He pushed her back, and she almost lost her hold on the twins. Jean tried to get up again, but his vision blurred. He could barely lift his head. The leader's eyes lowered to the babies. They belong to us now, he said firmly. They carry the future. They stay with the group. That single sentence lit a fire inside Ava that no fear could stop. You will not take them, she said, louder this time and without a single shake in her voice. The leader became angry. He moved closer, lifting a gun. The room felt like it stopped breathing. Suddenly, police sirens filled the street outside. Red and blue lights flashed across the diner walls. Officers shouted commands from outside. The attackers panicked. They did not expect police to show up here. They looked at each other, unsure of what to do next. The leader tried to grab one of the twins from Ava's arms, but Ava turned quickly, shielding the baby with her own body. Two attackers ran to the back door to escape. The leader stayed a second too long, hesitating between finishing his mission and saving himself. Jean pushed his last strength into a desperate move. He tackled the leader's legs, bringing him down to the floor. The gun slid away across the tiles. Ava ran toward the storage room. Police burst into the diner a moment later, shouting for everyone to stop. The attackers were forced to drop to the ground as officers surrounded them. The leader tried to break free, but an officer held him down. Jean collapsed fully, breathing weakly, his strength gone. Ava rushed to his side with the babies safe in her arms. Hold on, she whispered. It's almost over. Jean looked up at her. His eyes were filled with relief, but also fear. He knew this wasn't the end yet. For the twins to grow up safe, he had one more step to take. One that would change everything. Jean lay on the cold diner floor, his breath shallow and uneven. The fight had drained what little strength he had left. His vision flickered as if the world was slowly dimming around him. But even with his body weak, his heart stayed focused on one thing: his twins. Ava carefully placed the babies in their car seats again, keeping them close. Their cries filled the air, high and scared, reacting to the chaos around them. Ava knelt beside Jean and held his shoulder gently. "You're going to be okay," she whispered. "Help is here now." Jean shook his head just a little, his eyes telling her what his voice struggled to say. He did not believe he would make it much longer. The poison inside him was stronger than the fight he put up. Police officers moved through the diner, making sure every attacker was cuffed and forced to the ground. But before anyone felt safe, a loud shout came from outside. "Let him go. He's still out there." It was one of the officers. He pointed toward a broken window where dark footprints disappeared into the rain. Someone had escaped. Ava's heart dropped when she realized what that meant. The man who poisoned Jean. The one who wanted the power. The one who would do anything to take the twins. He was not caught. He was close. Jean opened his eyes wide as fear struck him again. He tried to sit up but fell back with a heavy breath. He looked toward Ava, trying to speak. "He's coming for them. Do not let him." Jean coughed, pain hitting him hard. "Take them." Ava nodded, even though her heart pounded so loud she could barely think. She placed herself in front of the car seats, ready to protect the babies with her whole body if needed. Police rushed to check the back of the diner, weapons ready. One officer stayed with Ava and Jean to keep watch. The tension felt sharp, like the room itself was holding its breath. The door to the kitchen burst open. A tall man stepped in, his eyes cold and fixed straight on the twins. In his hand was a gun. His clothes were soaked with rain, but his expression showed no hesitation. This was the man Jean once called his closest friend, his right-hand man, the one he trusted more than anyone inside the group. Now he looked like a stranger. "Ava, get back," the officer warned as he raised his own gun. The attacker spoke with a calm, low voice. "Lower your weapon. I only want the children." "No," Ava said immediately. "They stay right here." The man ignored her and stepped closer. "They are the future. Jean is finished. They belong with the group now." Jean fought to sit up, his body shaking. "No, they belong with their mother's heart. Not with you." The man glanced down at him with disgust. "You were getting soft. A leader cannot love. A leader cannot walk away. You forced my hand." He moved the gun slightly toward Jean. Ava screamed, "Stop." The officer shouted a warning. "Drop the weapon right now." But the attacker never looked away from the babies. "We were built to survive. These children will be raised with power, not weakness." Ava stepped in front of him. She did not care about the danger. She did not think about herself. She only held one truth in her heart. These babies deserved love, not fear. "You are wrong," she said, firm and brave. "They deserve a life far away from all of this." For the first time, the man looked directly at her. "You are nothing. You are not their blood." Ava took a breath, her voice steady. "You do not have to be blood to protect a child." The attacker moved the gun toward her, faster than she could react. Jean suddenly pushed his body up with every bit of strength left in him. He threw himself over Ava and the babies. A shot fired. The sound echoed through the diner. Ava screamed as Jean fell forward, collapsing over the edge of the car seats. The babies cried even louder. Ava held Jin's shoulders, begging him to stay awake. The officer fired 2 quick shots. The attacker dropped to the ground, his gun sliding away from his hand. Officers rushed in and pinned him to the floor. His face filled with shock. He did not expect Jean to still be able to move like that. Ava slid down next to Jean, tears falling. Blood spread across his shirt from where the bullet hit him. "No, no, stay with me," she begged softly. Jin's eyes found hers. Even with pain filling his chest, he smiled a little. "Thank you," Jean whispered, "for seeing me as a father, not a monster." Ava shook her head. "You are not a monster. You saved your children. You did everything a father should." Jean looked over at the babies. They were crying, scared, but unhurt. Their tiny hands reached out. His eyes softened. "I wanted to see them grow," he whispered. "I wanted to give them the world their mother dreamed of." Ava held his hand. "You will still give them that. I promise you." Police officers called for paramedics through their radios. They worked quickly, placing pressure on Jin's wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Jin's breathing slowed. He used the last of his strength to look at Ava. "If I cannot stay, please make sure they never feel alone again," he whispered. "You have my word," Ava said. and she meant it with her whole heart. More officers rushed inside, dragging the last struggling attacker away. The threat was over. Ava watched as paramedics lifted Jean onto a stretcher. The twins kept crying, but she held them close, whispering comfort into their tiny ears. As Jean was taken out into the rainy night, Ava followed close behind, pushing the car seats. She looked back at the diner, the place where everything started. A place that would never be just a workplace to her again. Jean had risked his life for love. He had chosen peace over power. That choice would change all of their lives forever. But Ava still worried. Would Jean make it? Would the law show mercy on a man who spent most of his life doing wrong, but finally chose to do what was right? She hoped the answer would lead to a brighter future. A new beginning for everyone. The hospital was bright and busy, filled with quick footsteps and loud voices. Nurses pushed stretchers through the halls. Doctors called out for supplies. Everything happened fast around Ava, but inside her heart, time felt heavy and slow. She sat in the waiting room, holding the twins close. Their tiny faces were peaceful now, as if the danger they faced had already faded from their memories. But Ava could not forget. She kept replaying what happened. The gun, Jean falling, the sound of the babies crying. Every moment stuck in her chest like a weight too heavy to lift. She looked up every time a doctor walked by, hoping for news. Finally, a doctor wearing blue scrubs approached her. He sat down in the chair beside her and took a deep breath before speaking. "He is alive," the doctor said softly. "He lost a lot of blood, and we are treating the poison in his system. He is weak, but he is fighting. He is a strong man." Ava closed her eyes and thanked God. She needed to hear that. But the doctor continued, his voice changing just a little. "When he is stable, police officers will speak with him. There are legal matters that must be handled." Ava nodded with a sad understanding. She knew this part was coming. Jean had lived his life in the shadows of crime for too long to walk away without consequences. But at least he would live long enough to face them. That was already a miracle. Hours passed. Ava fed the twins and rocked them gently while they slept. She felt a new responsibility growing inside her. Not just for tonight, but for every day moving forward. These babies needed someone who would love them with all their heart. Someone who would never let fear decide their future. She promised Jean she would be that person. A police officer walked up to her. He was calm, respectful. "Miss Carter," he said. "Jean Park is awake and asking for you." Ava picked up the carriers and followed him to a quiet hospital room. Inside, Jean lay in a bed with tubes and wires connected to him. His skin looked pale, but his eyes were open, still full of that same love he had shown in the diner. When he saw the babies, his tired face lit up with relief. "You kept them safe," he whispered. Ava set the car seats beside the bed. "I said I would," she replied. "And I meant it." Jean reached out a trembling hand toward his daughter. Ava helped place the baby's little fingers around his. His eyes filled with tears, but he smiled through them. "They deserve a life without fear," he said. "A life with real love. I could not give that to them before. But you can." Ava sat down beside him, her voice soft but strong. "You are their father. You gave everything you had to protect them. That shows love more than anything." Jean looked grateful, but he knew what was coming next. Two detectives entered the room. They stood near the door, giving space but also making it clear why they were here. Jean spoke first. "I will answer your questions," he said. "But first, I need one thing." He looked at Ava again. "There are papers in my bag," he said. "Custody papers. I signed them before I came to the diner. I knew that if I could not escape, someone else needed to protect them. You are that someone." Ava's heart skipped. She never expected something like this. The detective handed her a folder from Jin's personal items. Inside were legal documents stating that if anything happened to Jean, Ava Carter would have full custody of the twins until they became adults. Ava stared at the papers. Her hands shook. She looked up at Jean. "Are you sure?" she asked. Jean nodded with full certainty. "You saved them," he said. "Not because you wanted anything. Not because you feared anyone. You saved them because you care. You saw them as children, not symbols of power." His eyes filled with deep regret. "I wasted so many years choosing fear over love. I only learned what mattered when it was almost too late." Tears rolled down Ava's cheeks. She placed her hand over his. "It is not too late," she told him. "You changed. You chose the right path when it mattered the most. Your children will know that." Jean smiled, but it was a tired smile. One detective stepped forward politely. "Mr. Park, when you are strong enough, you will be taken into custody. The court will hear your case. But your cooperation today, it will be noted." Jean nodded. He accepted his fate. He then turned to Ava again. "I will not be able to hold them every day like I dreamed," he whispered. "But when you look at them, please tell them. I love them with everything I have." Ava squeezed his hand gently. "I will. They will grow up knowing their father was brave. They will grow up safe and loved." The twins made small sounds as if they were responding. Jean watched them with a full heart. "I have one more wish," Jean said. "When they are older, please bring them to visit me, if the court allows it. I want them to see that even someone who did wrong can try to make things right." Ava nodded without hesitation. "They will know you. They will know your heart." Jean let out a slow exhale, relief covering his face. He had secured their future. He had finally chosen love. The room was quiet for a moment. Not sad, but peaceful. Ava looked at the babies once more. They were tiny and innocent, unaware that their future had just changed forever. She promised herself silently. No fear. No violence. Only love and safety. The detectives left the room to finish their reports. A nurse came in to check Jin's vitals. Ava stood up and touched his arm gently. "I will be here," she said. "You are not alone." Jin closed his eyes, holding on to those words. For the first time in years, he felt like a father who had done something good. Ava stepped toward the door. She looked back at Jean one last time before leaving the room to take care of the twins. Jean watched her go with a soft smile. Hope followed behind her. Weeks passed, and life settled into a new rhythm. Ava moved the twins into her small home. It was nothing fancy, yet it was full of care. She set up 2 tiny beds side by side. She hung soft blankets above them. Every morning, she fed them with warm bottles, humming softly as the sun came through the windows. The babies laughed more now. They reached for her hands. They trusted the world around them, because for the first time in their lives, it felt safe. Ava worked part-time at the diner again, and the owner helped however he could. Customers who heard a little of the story would smile at the babies and leave extra tips without asking for anything in return. It was as if the community understood that these children deserved a gentle start. Every 2 weeks, Ava brought the twins to visit Jean. The visits took place in a controlled area, always supervised, but it did not matter. Jean only cared that he could see his children growing. He held their little hands through the opening on the table. He studied their faces and saved every smile like a treasure in his heart. He told Ava that seeing them was what kept him strong. Even though he wore a prison uniform now, he no longer felt trapped the way he once did. Before, his life was controlled by fear and greed. Now, his world was focused on love, even from a distance. One day, while Ava was packing the twins' diaper bag before a visit, she paused for a moment. She looked at their bright eyes and soft hair. She thought about how close they came to losing everything. Not just their father, but their future. The idea brought tears to her eyes. So much had changed because one stranger walked into her diner that night. During a visit, Jean noticed the quiet look on Ava's face. "You are tired," he said. "This is a lot for one person." Ava smiled, even though she was exhausted. "It is worth every moment," she replied. "They have changed my life. I used to wake up with no purpose. Now I wake up because I know they need me." Jean lowered his head. Gratitude filled his voice. "You are giving them a life I never knew was possible." Ava placed her hand on top of his. "You gave them life," she said softly. "I am just helping you finish the job." Jean held back tears. He wished he could be there more. He wished he could tuck them into bed or lift them up when they reached out to him. But he also knew that Ava was the reason they were alive to grow at all. Months went by. The twins learned how to crawl. They said their first small words. Their laughter filled Ava's home like music. She kept photos of their big moments and brought them to Jean so he could feel included. He would stare at the photos longer than anyone else would. Every small change meant everything to him. Ava kept her promise. She told the twins stories about their father. Not stories of fear or danger, but stories of a man who chose love even when his past was filled with mistakes. She wanted them to grow up knowing that people can change, that choices matter, that a heart can find its way even after being lost. One quiet evening, Ava sat rocking the babies to sleep. She whispered to them, "You are safe now. You are loved. Your future is yours to write." She looked out the window at the city lights and took a deep breath. She realized that she did not feel alone anymore. She had found something she never expected, a family. Jean also changed on the inside. He joined programs to teach young men about responsibility. He refused to let his old life control him anymore. He knew his greatest gift was not power or money. It was the two children who smiled every time they saw him. During one visit, Jean looked at Ava with a hopeful expression. "When I get out someday," he said, "I want to be the kind of father they can be proud of. I want to help you raise them if you allow me." Ava nodded. "They will always have you, no matter what." Jean smiled, full of hope. That hope was his new beginning. Time kept moving forward, but the fear from their past did not follow them anymore. Love took its place. Ava found joy in the small things. Tiny shoes lined up by the door, messy breakfast moments, tired giggles before bed. She realized that life does not have to be big to be beautiful. It only needs love. The twins grew stronger. Their first steps came. Their first birthdays arrived. Jean watched their growth through photos, drawings, and the precious few visits he had. Every time, Ava reminded him, "You started their story. I am just helping them walk through it." Ava never thought she would become a mother figure overnight. But now she could not imagine life any other way. Kindness had brought her to this moment. Kindness had saved two children from danger. Kindness had given Jean a reason to change. Kindness had created a future they all could believe in. A simple act of compassion changed everything. Ava looked at the twins and whispered, "No matter where you come from, you deserve love. You deserve safety. You deserve a second chance. Because everyone does." Thank you for watching this story to the end. If this story touched you, please subscribe for more powerful stories, because new stories drop every single day. To all our amazing viewers in USA, Australia, Mexico, France, UK, Canada, Brazil, Japan, Jamaica, and everywhere around the world, we appreciate you so much. You are part of this family. You belong here. Stay kind. Stay strong. We will see you tomorrow with another story that will keep your heart full.